We're on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to M&M Exhibition Poultry Talking Chickens with Matt and Mike. Today we're going it alone. It's
Yeah.
it's a rough deal, but here we are back at the beginning. It's just us. We have guests for next week, but this week we thought we'd answer a few questions that people have brought up, especially to Matt and messaged him about. So we thought we might as well just take some time and do that. It's been a week. Matt's been in New York judging. I judged a really nice fair. I usually don't do fairs, but a really nice junior fair yesterday. Had a really good time. And it's hotter than hammered hell again here today. It feels like anyway. It's so humid. So we might as well get this out of the way. If you see me look to the right, sorry, I am betting Saratoga as we speak and doing quite well. Thank you. So as always, uh, we're sponsored by Rozier's Poultry Supply. Caitlin will be on next Tuesday. Get in touch with them for
Thursday, isn't it? Tuesday, I'm going
no.
in Zanesville. Next
Okay,
Tuesday, it's
I
yeah, I
don't know.
think
Next
yeah,
Thursday.
I think it's Thursday or Wednesday. I can't remember, but
It's Thursday because
I know it's not Tuesday because I
she's
know
available
here.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you're gone Tuesday. So next
Yeah,
Thursday, we may have somebody earlier in the week. We'll see. Don't know how that's going to work. Or we may just do one next week. Uh, but get in touch with Caitlin. Then when you can, tune in on next Thursday, and she's going to give us the rundown on not only what they have and how they supply, maybe how they got started, but also on the Yomo show coming up. It's always a real good show. It's usually pretty warm. It's coming up in just a few weeks in September, but it's a good show, and she can give us the whole rundown, the judges, everything that's going on there. And is there something I'm forgetting? Oh, remember to like, subscribe, and share on all platforms. It's a great thing. Our viewership is increasing on all three. That's great. Uh, really appreciate it. So we'll just keep on going. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I've got 4 pages of things that I think we could take us through the next year or two, uh, from different courses to ever how much that I feel like doing, actually.
everybody
So,
can talk.
Matt, if you want to take it away and you can get started, and I'll just fill in and we'll go through the subjects you kind of had lined up.
Yeah, I guess the first one there was several comments, questions, and it's a tough one because it's feather quality. So it's something that I think we talked last week. You can't hardly describe it and tell somebody about feather quality. It's something you got to feel, see, realize for yourself in your own breed. So I guess my advice with it is read your standard and figure out what kind of feather quality your breed or variety has to have. Once you get that kind of in your head, start at the top of the head and go down the hackle all the way through the bird and look at the feathers and kind of evaluate what you think the feather quality is. Is a really another bird? Is it kind of fluffy? There's different things you can cut it for, and again, it depends on the requirement for the breed. So it's. I wish it was a little easier for us to tell you about it on here, but with the questions I had, it's just one you got to learn for yourself. I remember years ago, and I mean a long time ago, we went to Dale Rice's place over in Pennsylvania, Clay Doug
Yep.
and I, and he was buying black Sumatra large fowl. And they were up in the trees. It was dark. And Dale got those birds out of the trees just by the field. He'd pull one down, he'd run his hand over it, throw it off to the side. He'd run his hand over it, hand one down to Clay. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You can feel the feather quality when you run your
Yeah,
hand over the bird.
I think the thing, especially on blackbirds like that, and pretty much on other colored birds, is that it's a feel that you have to get used to, but there is an almost electric feel to them when you go to rub your hand over them lightly. If your hand stops or kind of skids as you're going, you can about bet your butt that there's a purple bar there. But if it just it's a very luxurious, even though if it's a harder feather, just the feel, your hands just flow over top of it. And during the daytime, when you look at them, if you see them, they're usually a thicker feather. The quality of the feather itself. Now, I'm not saying that the pattern's worth of shit or anything else, but the quality of that feather,
Yep.
you can feel that feather. And sometimes it's like feeling the body, not the weight, the body of a bird when you pick it up. After a little bit, you know it when it hits your hand. And a lot of things, if you go to your coop and do it, keep going and then start closing your eyes and let your other senses, and you can feel that and you can integrate it. And truthfully, if you can't, I can't help you, man. There's no way, because you can look at it and think, boy, it's not really nice.
And I think
It's just one of
we need to clarify a couple things too. So there's feather quality that's genetic related, and then there's
yes,
feather quality that's husband related. So first
yes, a
place,
lot
before you
of that.
start evaluating, you want to make sure your birds are fed correctly, clean, taken very well care of. Because if it's hereditary feather quality, we can probably work on that. But if it's husbandry feather quality, we ain't never going to fix that till you get it
No,
going. So
and dried out. A lot of the feathers, they dry out. You gotta. I mean, a lot of things go into it, but all things being equal, I mean, you can go by feel. Do you remember that time we went over to uh, to Bill's Wolf's,
mhm.
and he was culling those birds at night?
Yep.
Now that's different. That's not feather quality, but that's just the type,
I think
the
though with
body.
the black old English, you had that. He said if they don't feel right, don't keep them because you're going to breed from them because
Yep.
they'll look good. And I tell everybody that with old English, you got to feel them first because
Yep.
it was just like yesterday judging racing homer pigeons. I know a good racing homer when I got it in my hand, and I had about 50 of them, and I went if it didn't feel good in the hand, then you just go on. It can look all
Right.
pretty from outside the cage. Same kind of with that, but even with like black old English when you grab a hold of them, you can feel
Oh,
that
you could
feather
feel it.
quality.
Yes.
And like you
Yeah.
said, if they've
Even
got nicks or purple bars or stress feathers, you're gonna find them when you feel over top of them. But there
exactly.
is a difference between feather quality that's genetic and feather quality that's husbandry related. So we're talking about
Well,
genetic
we
feather
we
quality.
we've known people in the past that have, you could sell a Rhode Island Red too or
Yep.
whatever that and sell for as much money. And in 3 weeks, you can't even find that bird because it looks
Yep.
altogether different. It's dead. The feathers are dead. I guess that's a good way to do feather quality too. Is they feel alive. I mean, they have a feel to them, not just some dried out piece of whatever
Yep.
off the end of them. So
And
yeah,
and it
that's
that exemplifies good health and good nutrition, and then
exactly.
we go to the finer stuff. So if it's genetic feather quality, you ain't never going to fix that with nutrition and good husbandry. So
Oh,
two different things, double edged sword. It's one that I think by the time you realize you got a problem, it may be too late.
yep.
So you've got to be vigilant for it every year, whatever breed variety you're raising. Uh, one of the things I look for first is feather quality, and I think Don talked about that thing in the whites they called leather feather, the thicker feather. Boy, that's a trait if you can find, you want to definitely stamp in, because like we've talked many times before, white feathers tend to be very thin, and they'll get thinner and thinner and narrower and
Yes.
narrower. So you have to watch that. We do it in the whites all the time.
And railroad,
Not
railroad.
and narrower the Cochins, as the Chanticleers and the Rocks, probably not so much because they tend to not
Right.
have that issue. Wyandottes had it. I mean, Wyandottes will get a stringy feather and feathers that don't have any structure to them. It's because
Yes. That
there's
no
genetic issues
depth.
going on. Yep.
There's
Um,
no thickness, no depth to them, and that's a problem. I mean, you can get it back, but it's a hell of a lot harder to get back
yep.
once you've had it in, than it is to just get it and keep
Well,
it. To
one of
keep
the
it.
reasons why I got the frizzles out years ago was that I noticed in my smooth whites that I was starting to get some of that frizzly feather, because what happens there is you end up keeping smooths out of the frizzles because they're good typed, and then they carry those nasty little things down the road. So uh, in my mind, normally if you're trying to breed smooths and frizzles, you got to do one or the other. It's kind of like blues and blacks. You either have blues or you got blacks. If you got them both, you're gonna more
You got to be really
opportunity for
good. Yeah,
more
you
opportunity
really
for
got
you
to keep
to
records.
mess them up. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
and speaking of frizzles, that's like the a buff is the same way as the white in frizzles. It will you'll turn up and think, what the hell happened to that your coaches? Well, somewhere you put a smooth feathered frizzle in there because usually they do have pretty damn good type. Matter of fact, yesterday, just a little side note, I made a white Plymouth Rock frizzled Bantam cockbird. Uh, he was a little big. It was a fair, but he was a wonderful bird. And the girl also won showmanship because I thought I was talking to you at 15 years old. It was, I mean, she knew frizzles, man, and it was very good. It was very pleasant to see someone that took. She didn't know a whole lot of other stuff, but she damn knew frizzles and frizzle bantams and her frizzle rock frizzles. So it was really good. But
and there's been
uh,
some really good. Tim Bowles and Rick Bond both had really nice white rock frizzles at one time.
oh yeah,
Um,
large and bantam.
yep, yep. And then years ago, I seen some. What's her name? Lynn Shelburne down in Kentucky had buff large fowl frizzles that she had got from some obscure place, and they were nice type, nice color. She did. I mean, she went American with those, so it can happen. That's a whole different feather quality with frizzles. You
Oh,
have different. I mean,
that's
different
a
things
ball
there
game.
too, but
Yeah,
you can have frizzles, and I see it in silkies. You can have frizzles and silkies with bad feather quality. Either you get too much smooth feather or you get too much shredded feather. So there's something you always have to watch in those breeds as well. I see a lot of poorly feathered silkies anymore, just not mainly from crossing to all kinds of stuff. I think is where it's coming
yeah,
from, but um,
yep,
yeah, some of them are almost smooth feathered and not that silky feather that we want, the barbless feather. So they have issues too. Polish, I see feather quality issues in them. They'll get narrow and stringy as well.
and
Um,
there's another frizzle one that a lot of frizzles. There are a lot of Polish frizzles, and there's another one, another not watching what you're doing or doing it because you think you're improving type, which for a year you might be, but man, when they
yeah,
go.
keeping that frizzle gene down in that feather bank is a nightmare to get rid of once you get it going.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So I guess
Jeffrey,
that
oh, and
basically
it
describes
does.
feather quality.
But besides your comment the other day on those birds of toms, and you could see it more in a lot of different strains, whether the birds are worth a shit or not. Of
Yep,
big coachins, especially blacks, you'll see a nice rose petal. They're rounded, they're thick. They look just like a petal of a rose. If you
yep.
pluck them and put them up, you can make a fake rose out of them. Uh, and that's another quality. And they're a thick feather. They're a very luxurious feather. So that's another thing. But the feather shape also of whatever breed it is, they got to be right. They start squaring off, you're headed for
Yep.
trouble.
You've got to look at this. I think most of even in the front of the standard, there's some feather sections where you can actually, they've got an individual feather. You can examine the structure of how the feather should be. So you know that
Yeah,
uh, those ones that have lots of extra frills in the barbs or whatever are not right. Um,
yeah, and
and
that's
that
another
goes
thing.
for everything. That goes for waterfowl,
Yes,
guineas, ducks,
yes.
turkeys,
If
and
it's
even
got
in
feathers,
pigeons are the same way. They have a definite feather quality. So something to
yeah,
always be aware of. Probably the one of the biggest issues that puts you out of whack is getting poor feather quality. And had Rhode Island Reds for years. Man, you don't want it in those.
no, the
It'll
saddle
ruin
feathers
you.
and stuff,
Yep,
just terrible,
yep.
terrible.
And so something you always got to be vigilant against. So that's hopefully that answers most of the questions. I think it did. If you got questions about it, the best thing to do is get to a show somewhere and ask somebody what they think is good feather
Yeah,
quality on your breed, and then they'll show you from what's in the show.
yeah,
You can almost tell.
because you can only do so much with the your interpretation of the standard. And I kind of come up with that. Maybe what we'll do one day is we're going to have a series possibly on basically how to interpret the standard. and just things that kind of help you. You have to draw your own conclusions, but to help you in the thought process to start uh, that journey, which we're going to come to more of that later. What's next,
Yep.
Maddie?
I think next we were talking a lot of questions on breeding and how to get started breeding. And I kind of, about 3 or 4 years ago, my friend in the pigeon business, Bill Henderson from down around Chattanooga, he wrote an article that was in the Pigeon newsletter, Pigeon magazine that comes out every month. And I got to thinking about that. And so Bill, I don't care what he has. He doesn't have a great big space and a great big loft, but I don't. He has had old German owls, West of England tumblers, several breeds, fantails, whatever breed he gets. He's always master breeder. The guy to beat within just a couple years. But Bill has a theory, and it's pretty simple. And if you think about it, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I've done it the last couple of years with a couple of the breeds I have here. Is he says, sell all your good ones and breed from your exceptional birds. So think about that. Most of us have a tendency to make way too many matings just to get numbers out. Bill's not that way.
Oh
He
yeah,
makes 2 or 3 matings with the very best birds probably in the country, and he's getting a higher percentage of good birds because they're producing better birds, and then he weeds through them, sells the good ones off, and just again the next year goes from just the exceptional birds. So with that being said, you're breeding from your exceptional birds. You have to have some goals or something figured out of why you're putting them birds together. And I think Jeff talked about it. Don talked about it. The most important thing Hallback Poultry Farms did was set those matings up every year. That's where they spent their time. That's what you need to do. You need to spend the time, see if you're balancing faults with the males and the females. Or this year, I'm trying to improve heads, and how am I going to go about doing that? So you got to have
right.
some goals in mind before you ever do it. Way too many. Just willy nilly throw shit together and with a shotgun approach, and then hope to get a. I raised 1,000 chicks. Well, great, you got them out now. That's half the battle, or a quarter of the battle. Now you got to grow them up to a sufficiency that you can actually sort them, and then you have to call them out, and then you have to see it. Did you make progress? Did you not make progress? Kind of like we use those sheets to score your birds. So if you scored your birds in the
Right.
90s, or what are they scoring now as that they're growing up? So I think every meeting has to have a purpose. And I've always said around here, and they don't have much space, is every bird has to have a purpose. If this bird doesn't have no use, Mike and I go to the auctions a whole bunch and take a whole bunch of birds, and they're probably better than what a lot of them are showing, but they didn't have a purpose here.
Well, that's true, and I think because I've done it both ways.
Oh,
There's
we all
times
have.
that
That's how I learned
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the way to do it.
Well, there's times and you get hatching and you really get going. So you figure, well, they're still laying, so you 50 would probably do, but you raise 150. Now, what I have found, uh, and it took ever how many years you've been doing this, 50 some years, to this finally hit home. Backstory. Several years ago, I was at Bob Enslin's. Bob had wonderful black coaching bantams and sold a lot of coaching bantams. By a lot, I mean Bob never raised more than 50. Don't care if it was the blacks, if he was playing with whites, if he was making a cross, because he would use whites back in these blacks, and then he'd play and make a few whites out of it. He never raised more than 50. And I asked him one time, because here was me. I mean, I was, what were we, 18, 19, Matt? And he'd say, how many did you raise? And I'd say, I don't know,
Oh,
150. And he'd just shake his head, wouldn't say anything. Then he told me the story. And he told it in this way. His dad was a coaching breeder also, and something else, and I can't remember what. His dad had buffs, I think, Matt, back when all the old boys over there used to have
mhm.
buffs. And
They all
he
had their
said,
own colors.
yeah, he said, here's the deal, son. He's talking to Bob. He said, you can raise you can raise 50 and sell 40 for $35 a piece. And back in 1977, that's a ton of money. Or you could raise 150 and sell 140 for $10 a piece. What do you think is best? And of course, I laughed at that because, man, I like numbers. I mean, I've raised 300 big blacks at times. I thought that was great until, you start trying to move all them pens and move all them birds, and you're constantly moving birds, more space, moving birds, calling, calling. Finally, you just get tired of that shit. So that's why your later hatches, they're not like them first ones. So, but I have found the percentage, even in buff bantams and all the crosses we've done, I almost get the same number of birds I want to keep if I raise 25 as if I raise 100. And I've raised 100 many times. It just doesn't, it's not a new breed. So you don't need the numbers. You should know what's there.
It's
And
more important about the quality of what you're using
the and the
than just
care
hitting
that you
numbers.
can give that, and the care that you could give that quality. And if you raise 25, let's say you raise 50 birds and you keep 5, that's 10%. If those 5 are better than their parents and they're the ones you want, you're better off keeping those 5 and the other 45 leave and give somebody else a chance to maybe next year bring their stuff up. There is no reason. I mean, folks, I've kept as high as 15 white Cochin Bantam cockerels because showbirds, but I never bred from 15 Bantam cockerels. I kept them so that we always could show 5. We showed 5 a lot of times. So I mean, that's a different thing. If you're just keeping stuff to show, you've got the room; they're already grown. But there is absolutely no reason for most people to raise as many as they want to raise. How many times, Matt, have we went to sale pens and looked in there and thought, that bird, I can make something out of that bird, make a show bird out of that bird, because you can tell, I raised 300.
Yep.
Well, good Lord, how big a space did the 300 have? Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to raise 1,000 birds and you've got acreage and you've got range
You can do
pens
it.
and you can do it, you can do it. Good for you. Most of us can't do that. And as you get older, most of us don't want to do that.
And I think
So, I mean,
the majority of the new people starting out are in that category. There's not there's not very many of us going to jump in and compete with the Thompsons raising 1,500 a year.
No.
You're going to get in there and raise 50 and have to. So that's kind of what I'm gearing it towards.
Yes.
You have to have a purpose of that mating and analyze that mating and make sure that it worked. And if it didn't, then we got to go back and do more work. And that feather quality analysis, typing out, all that stuff has to go in to the taking that time to set up that mating. And like Jeff said, the most important thing they did every year was that. And that's the most important thing you do every year with that. And you find out real quick at the end of the year whether you were good at it or not. And I ain't gonna say every time we've ever put them together it was a home run. That's for sure. You're
we've had a lot
about if you bat 300, you're doing good.
Like what I say sometimes, how you guys said, I've had some spectacular disasters.
Yep.
Absolutely spectacular. It's like, what the hell just happened? And you take 120 birds to an auction. Well, I don't care. Then you say, I'm happy just not to be feeding them. Well, yeah, that's a good thing, but that's a bad thing.
Yep.
Because you're not feeding them, but you know how much money? Yeah, exactly. You've wasted your time and your energy when you could be putting it into something else. So, a case in point. Now, I can't say this for sure because they're still growing, but I usually raise 75 to 100 white Cochin Bantams a year. This year, because they didn't want to lay when they laid like crazy until I get ready to set, and I kept having one female lay, go broody, another female. I got 18 of them so far, and you hatched the youngest. That two pair, and they look great. I haven't found one to cull yet.
Yep, that's what you'll find. I think Bill says that in that article, that when you do that, you're not culling for just obvious shit. You're not. I mean, type. You've got that pretty much down. So, but you're culling for the fine points at that point, and that's where you see the progress.
You're making them better than their parent. Yep. You're at that point where it's like, and the great thing is that if you don't once you got your, I don't know how to say this, once you got your shit together and you're looking at them, like here and at Matt's too, you could take those. You found two or three cockerels. Just name the breed, Chanticleers, the coaches, and you could take the old man and put him up there, and you could put those two right next to him and stand there and look at him. Because our memories a lot of times aren't exactly how it happened, but if you're looking right now,
And I
then
find
you can see that.
even judging to have them right there next to each other, you can
Yes.
evaluate them a whole lot better than not having them right there next to. So,
Yep. Yep.
if you're trying to compare and score them, you're going to do it right there. Then that's always the goal, to make a bird's better than what you started with, or
Exactly.
as good as good. I'll go with that sometimes. What you don't want to do is be going in reverse, where, man, I raised all this stuff this year, and take out that factor of not growing them out correctly. So,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be raising any more than what you can handle. And I know that's easy to say, and we've all got a little crazy and get too many, but then the culling has to really step up when you don't have the room to grow them out. So,
And the
you've
column
got to
has to
always,
become sooner.
yes,
You
you have
have
to
to
get it.
start sooner, and you don't always know because we've said many times how we've looked down and said, where the hell did that one come from? It was in the coal bin. Well, things change real quick sometimes. A lot of times they don't, but things change, and it's according to the breed. And that gets me back when you're talking about raising maybe fewer, more selective. And I don't
And
care
know
what you're
know
selecting
your
for.
capacity. So I know here with Bantams that if I get about 200 chicks, that's going to be loaded up. And then I know at that
Yep.
point, a lot of times I don't have everything out that I want, but I need to shut it off because I'm not going to have no place to put them when they do grow up. And I tend to
Boy,
keep
that
several of them, until they, like you said, till you're sure they're going to go one way or
yeah.
another, and you got to get them separated. And so you got to know your capacity of what you can raise, and that just happens to be my number. If you can do 1,500 like some of our friends, and be able to coop them and care for them and all that, that's great. It just amplifies your work and your analysis of these breeding programs a lot more.
Right.
Um, I always tell you not to bite off more than you can take, because it'll burn you out, and we've all done that. Have way too
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
stuff going on, and then what happens is nothing's any good. So you
Right.
have to get in there and specialize at a few things, and get that process down pat. Then you can move on to others. Now I I know what Jack's going through because of trying to do all those colors at once, and
Right.
sometimes that makes your better birds slide off a little bit because you're focusing on too much stuff. So that's not for everybody. I
Yep.
always recommend start with one or two varieties usually of the same breed, rather than, or a couple different breeds if that's what you want to do. But don't start off doing too much. Be
Yeah.
successful with one thing first, and then that's kind of what we did over the years. And well, not really. I started off with everything, and then realized
No,
pretty
no,
quick
yeah,
that wasn't it.
but we
But
did because I mean we went from I mean we had and then you had the black walnuts for a long time and that's all you had and then I got some and that's basically what I did. Now I had a few old English and stuff, but they were never the main. I'd raise 15, 20. I'd raise 50 to 75 black Wyandottes, and then we did it in the reds, and then we did it in the rocks, and then so it's there's little things, and even in the moderns, yeah, got some moderns, raised 50, but it was always the thing that we we're concentrating most on are the things we'd win in the other ones, but it's like, whoa, where'd that come from?
yep,
I mean, you don't really know, but you're concentrating on one thing. And when you race fewer, and of course, we both got that now, although we're busier in hell and don't know where the day goes. But I noticed that I could sit underneath that tree, especially in the evenings when I got them out, the big birds especially, but there's bantams with them. I can just sit there and watch, and I can watch those birds change every day. You see how they grow, you
yep,
see width at different points. And if there's some of them, like I say, that just pop up out of nowhere, but you kind of learn. You kind of learn that yeah, I can't call this early because they may drop in. That cushion may come back over top of it, and unless you got the time to do that, you
yep.
will never know.
You
ever.
have to watch them. That's probably
Yeah,
that's one of the more enjoyable things is just sitting there and watching them and
absolutely.
and see them move and pick them out. We talked about that. So a lot of these breeds actually you have to see them move and act like chickens, and that also helps you in the show cage because if they get in the show cage and they're absolutely insane or they're real timid, then they're not going to do anybody any good. So
And I'll tell you another point I think that's good. Maybe not when you say just cut it off. So when you just cut it off, so say you're done and you've got your numbers and it's May. By the time everybody wants to hatch in spring, but I can't tell you how many really good birds that we've hatched in October and November
yep.
because without all that pressure of constantly moving shit and having to get rid of them, I mean, your numbers aren't as big to get. So you're back down and they start laying and you think, hey, I could raise a few more. And those birds, a lot of times, I
Are the best
mean,
ones.
are the best ones. They're
It,
good for spring, but
I
when
always
it comes to the next fall, oh man, they're fantastic.
I always remember one of Ed Miller's favorite sayings was the first few batches of your chicks get the best care. Well, that's true
Always.
every year because when you get that first batch out, man, you're all fired up and everything's just so. And then when you got about 150 piled behind them, there's a lot. Throw the feed in, throw the water in. So that's true. The first 4 or 5 batches probably are getting better care than the rest ones, especially if you overhatch. So that's
And they're
why I
usually
think
tamer. They're usually tamer because you're in there more often because that's all you got. You go out to do something, so you're dicking around with them. Maybe treats. I got a tendency. I love to watch the chicks when they're real young. Well, after like that fourth hatch, I don't want to see them. I
yep,
mean, I do. I look through everything. Okay, yep. Here's the feed. Here's the water. I got to go because I got another 100 of them to take care of. So I mean, it's all. And if you can do all that and still maintain, and you can give them all the attention they need, well, then you're a special person, and God love you. Go ahead on with it.
yep.
Don't take anything we're saying as gospel. We just know what has worked for us and
It's
a
just
lot of friends of ours.
nice to have a plan. So you know,
Yes.
and you got to know your own limitations because you'll know when you pass them. Because I've been there.
Yeah.
You're like, where in the hell am I going to put this out of the breeder? You got to
Yeah.
have that think ahead every couple of weeks so that you don't overdo it. So like I said, for me
Exactly.
that's about 200. I know if I got 200 hatched, regardless of how many's in the batches, that's it because that's all I'm going to be able to grow out. Then I'll wait until I get them weeded down, like Mike said, and then if I got room, then in the fall we'll put a few special matings back again, a couple exceptional matings of stuff I didn't get in the spring normally,
Right.
or stuff I want
Right.
to show next spring, and get them out. So that's something we didn't do last year that
Nope.
kind of hurt us for spring shows this
Yep.
year. And right now for
Which we didn't
fairs,
have any spring shows, but
no, there wasn't any, so I guess it didn't really hurt us. But
right.
yeah, I think that's just it on breeding. Just don't try to overdo it. It's great to have good records. Now I do like some things Dan talked. I know we'll have him back, but and like Jeff said, I like to if I'm going to do not a pair. Again, your best mating is probably the pair, and then you got the records of that pair, what they produced. I really liked one of the things they pointed out about your hatch date and how it matures. I think both Dan and Don said that. That's very important. So if I've
Yeah.
got 5 cockerels and they're all in the same batch, and 3 of them are really growing really good and looking great, and 2 of them are lagging behind, there's a good indication they're never going to catch up and get rid of them now. So
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
was
I
a
think.
great point that I think I do, but I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. I
About
think that I took
maturity.
that too. That stuck with me with probably one of the most impressive thing that impressed me on the whole day is that because I generally I don't do pair matings. I basically do trios or pens. Uh,
And
I've
that was
always
what I was
done it
gonna
that way.
plug in there. If you're gonna do trios and pens, so a trio is a male and 2 females, and for those that don't know, a pen is a male and 3 females.
3 females.
Make sure their sisters are the same family. It
Yes.
because if you're tracking that mating, it's a whole lot easier to track what it's producing. If those females, those 2 or 3 females, are unrelated, man, that's a mess there because you're not sure which one's producing what. I mean, unless you've got every individual egg tracked back and not just that mating, you're going to be in a trouble. So if you use two or three
Right.
females that are related, either a mother and two daughters, or three sisters, or three, that line, just try to keep it. Try not to do different things in the same mating because there's no way to possibly track your records. If it clicks, how you gonna know which one of those females was the one that produced it? Number one, and number two, if it doesn't click, and you've got two good ones and two or three junk ones in here, you just don't know where they come from. So it doesn't. That's more perpetuating than it is in my mind of breeding when you're not
Yes.
using
Ex-
related
Exactly.
females in that pen. So I
Yep.
like Jeff's idea where they picked the strong points of the female, and if the male had, they balance weaknesses, that's a good thing. I don't know if you want to do real extremes. I think Matt and a couple other people talked about, and I've never had luck doing extremes to fix anything. It's only ever done if that's all I got to do. If I don't have nothing else to use,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do this. But I tend to not do like extreme mating. Like he said, a real light model to a real dark model. That's not going to get you any than two correct color ones, probably any better birds. So
Nope. That's
I think
exactly
that's
right.
it. I think, yeah, if you just have to have control over it and be able to evaluate it when you're done with it to make sure that it worked. And if you don't do that, you're just putting birds together and sorting out what produced it, and
If
that's
you don't
tough.
see, if you don't see progress and you're moving so forward, even if it's just a little bit, that's
Yep.
still forward. Then there's no such thing as staying the same. If you think they all look like last year's, guarantee you've lost.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
went
That's
backwards.
You always want to have that moving forward mentality. That's definitely for
Yes.
sure. And I'm not saying everything I've ever done moved forward. There's been stuff where
Oh no.
I looked at what I did and I
Spectacular.
thought, man, I just messed them up, and
Oh yeah.
either
Yeah.
scrapped them or started over, or went back to square one to, hey, we need to do this. And we've done
Yep.
it with the whites over 14 years. There's been a
Yep.
couple of years where I thought, oh my God, and uh, let alone just breeding them for that reason. Then you fight disease and predators and everything else. So yeah,
Yep.
you always kind of got to have a plan B. And I always like to have some birds squirreled away somewhere. With Mike and I, it's easy because we can send them back and forth. But or even with other breeders, just in case, like I've been wiped out by mink twice, wiped out everything I had. So what do you do
Yeah.
there? If you want to start, if you're smart, you to quit. But that I'm not accused of being smart, and you still got to start over again. So either you're starting from scratch, or you're going to go back and try to get birds from people that you supplied birds to. So you kind of
Yeah.
always got
And
to have that in your mind, because I never thought for once that I'd ever be in that position, but I have been. And diseases
well,
will do the
it is.
same thing.
That's that friend thing, right? That's what we talk about, where the birds are neat, but the important part is the friends. I mean, if everything went to hell tomorrow with all the birds, I think we could get them all back,
Yeah,
because
or
we place
at
birds.
least
People that say,
somewhere.
"Hey, I like them." Yeah, I like them, and most of the time they're friends, because I'm going to tell you the truth, and this might ruffle some feathers. That, like, that's never happened,
Hmm?
but
That's that feather
most of the
quality going on.
birds that we sell to people that we don't know, we never hear from them or the birds again. It's like, where the hell? Where did all? I sold 100 coaches. Where the hell did they
Where they
go?
go? Yeah, that happens a
Yeah.
lot.
So, but then there are friends that have their, and Matt's started that now in the Chanticleers, that we kind of trade birds every now and then. If someone needs something, they ask it, and see you get them started, and you kind of go. And so if something happened and I need it, well, then you've got a lifeline. We know who to get with to get the ID. Now, will it be the same? No, it hasn't been here, but you're in there. So there's a good shot that
Yep.
you will get back, or hell, they may be better. Who the hell knows? But I mean, there's a
Yep.
shot that you can get back what you need to go forward. That's very important.
Yeah, you don't
Just,
want to.
you
You
know,
definitely don't want to be on an island, because I know some lines of
no,
birds that I had that I didn't. Well, not because I did not want to share them. I just never had enough of them to share them. And when you get
exactly.
a disease or a wild animal attack like that, you're just done. So nothing
Yes.
more sickening than walking in the barn and and bagging up 12 garbage bags full of dead chickens and thinking, what am I going to do here? So
Yeah.
it can happen. It will happen. It's just you always got to have that plan B. So I guess
Yep.
that's a breeding in a nutshell. I don't do a lot of them anymore. I mean, there was times when I had 6 or 7 black Wyandotte matings, and now I tend to do 1 or 2 in each breed, and I can keep track of that better. Most of the time, just in my head, I know that I use, like this year with the Chanticleers, I used 1 cockerel on all the females, and they were all related, so everything's coming out very consistent, and they, the males look like their dad, so pretty simple on them this year. The white layers, man, I don't know. They're like all over the place. So I do have some ones that were, the problem with them with combs, you can really cull them pretty quick.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing. So I've got 2 or 3 that with good combs that really stick out. And then I got a hell of a bird with a double leader on his. He looks like I could probably make watermall leghorns because I probably could get a 3 spike point out of that one. But I mean, you look at those like, damn. But had some good cone ones pop out last year because I used a fairly decent cone males and females, and so we're going to sort through them in a little bit. They tend to be a little longer along before you
Oh
can
yeah,
sort them
they
for
take
type.
longer than about anything else. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And so that was the goal later today and tomorrow. I'm going to get my cockerels all separated up. They're about 4 months old, and they need to be in their own pen for a while. And then the pullets are growing really well. And I'm going to evaluate the partridge matings. The good thing with the partridge this year, the partridge chanticleers, is I got those birds from Paul Gilroy kind of late in the year, and I put the male bird, which was a real Cornish-looking bird in my mind, real wide, parrot beak, short-headed bird
Oh yeah, his
over.
head. He had a Cornish head on him.
Yeah, and I put him on my 2 best. It was a hen and a pullet that I've been breeding from for partridge chanticleers. So I got 5 chicks, and they're coming along. And I noticed right off the bat they're a lot more consistent in color, which is kind of weird because this Cornish looking thing I think has got a lot of dark coloring in him, and
He
not
does.
totally partridge. But these chicks look partridge now, and they're real dark colored. So that was something I'm curious to see them grow up to evaluate. They will be half and half, so that'll be a total 50-50 outcross of 2 different lines, and that's why I did it that way. I just wanted a few chicks to test mate and see what they look like, and then if I think they're good, we're going to work them back in. Because the
Right.
cockerels that I have this is about the 5th generation from a white partridge cross. The cockerels that I have out on the ground, I really like. They're better than anything I've raised. So, and the females are darkening up, getting better penciled. So maybe show some this year. That's the goal. It's like I said, it started out as just a whim thing because I did buffs and partridge at the same time and scrapped the buffs pretty early on and kept the partridge going. And I'm happy with the results. So that's about it
Yeah, that's
here, I
pretty good.
think, on the breeding end of it. I never did get any water malls out, and they're going to be a fall deal. The barred cochins and the water malls, I'm going to throw them back together in the fall to see if I can get some chicks because they were sporadically laying when I wanted to finish up and not really laying real well now. So once they get molded out and ready to go, I think we'll be able to get a few of them in the fall and maybe some more chanticleers. We'll see. I got probably more whites than I've raised in a while on the ground now. So I think
Good.
that's about it on breeding. And I think the last thing we had today was somebody had a questions about what I put on there, Mike. Journey to the judging
Judging.
career. So I
Yep.
guess I can start and tell you how I got that way. Probably in the mid 90s, we started with these junior programs. And the first one was at Columbus. We had showmanship and a separate junior show. And, they kind of, years ago at Columbus, the juniors showed in with the open birds and they went around and picked the best birds by juniors in the open show. And that was your junior show. Well, in the mid 90s, they kind of transitioned them having their own deal, their own separate show. And then showmanship come along and Vi did the very first one, and God, I don't know how many kids she had, but they were there all. Emily was 9, I remember that, and she was the last class, and it was like late that night before they ever got it done. So I seen that. What happened with a lot of Ohio has 88 counties, 88 fairs, and we get to these fairs and they're using unlicensed poultry judges that just one day they said they were a judge and they go out there and fake it. I guess is the thing. So I seen that and I thought, man, I really don't know if I want to do that. Normally when I do shit like that, I ruin my hobbies. And I thought, well, I started doing junior shows. So I started doing junior shows and showmanship and a few fairs and then some regular shows. And then somebody said, well, you ought to get your license. So I talked to some of the ABA guys at the time. And um, I think it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, I signed up for the apprenticeship program. So I guess with what you need to do that, you got to have some kind of motivation to be one. And then you got to have the desire to know something about everything. That's a little tough. So I don't think if you're motivated to be a judge and you only want to do one or two breeds, that's not going to happen. You have to make the commitment to learn it all. And I'm not saying you got to memorize every damn thing in the book, but you have to be able to function or know where to go get the information if you need it.
Working knowledge.
Yeah, working knowledge, and we always call it eye for the birds. So some people can look at something and find out the best and the worst one right away. So you've got to develop that eye for different kinds of birds and different breeds. So you got to have all that desire before you ever get in, because if you don't, you're going to struggle, I think, in my mind. So you got to want to judge everything. I started first with bantams because I really never had an interest to get anything other than that. I just wanted a bantam license and that was good. And I didn't really want to work. Well, hell, after starting out the first couple of years, I got a lot of jobs. I kind of come in at the time when a lot of the old guys were done and there wasn't anybody replacing them. So there was plenty of work right off the bat. And God, I know I did 30, 40 shows a year for several years when I first started before I got my APA. I judged a lot. A lot of fairs. Tim Bowles always told me, go do those fairs because anybody can judge good chickens. This takes a judge to go judge a bunch of bad chickens.
Yeah.
Well, that's the truth. So you've got to be able to justify why you got 5 crappy ones, why this one's first. And that's where you really learn things. You learn a lot about different breeds and varieties doing those fairs, and did them for a long time, did a lot of junior shows, and then started doing open shows and got like thrown in the fire right off the bat. Did lots of national meets, APA nationals. Then finally, I think it was about 2005, I took my APA test at the Michigan State Fair under Tim Bowles and Paul Monteith. And that was a good place to do it because they have everything.
Yep.
And started on that. And then actually did a lot of, after that, I got my APA license. I was like shocked. I have a lot more work and got to do a lot more large fowl, waterfowl, turkeys, things like that, other than just for the first few years, it was mostly bantams I got put on. So nobody starts out great. You all struggle when we start out judging. It's a process. Over the years, you get better at it. You get more efficient at it. You get better at working the classes, better at, going in there and breaking the classes down, especially great big ones. Sometimes you get intimidated. And I think my first one was Dalton, Georgia. I got down there and I had, for the day, I had black Old English and Wheaton Old English, and I had 116 black pullets. So right into the fire. And actually, I don't know that that's any tougher because you got to be able to work that class down to what you can, we can justify you like. So it's easier to do 2 or 3 in a class and go on down that, but you'll get into big classes down the road. Just my advice, I guess you've got to want to do all that. And if you're thinking you're going to get rich, you're not. I can tell you that right now.
God, no.
It's going to cost you more than it's worth. You're going to get frustrated. People are going to piss you off. Get under your skin a little bit. The good thing I always tell everybody, and it doesn't really bother me anymore, I just tell them I'm the one that's getting paid today, and my opinion is the only one that counts. So you can have yours and you can not agree, and we can go on about our day because you're not going to influence me or change my mind in many things. I think a couple of things that I recommend people do, and I did it myself. We talked about it on here. You're going to have your strengths and weaknesses, and you need to go work on those weaknesses. Mine was moderns and medium ducks, the two classes I just dread when I got them. Not so much because I got a lot of them. I was kind of leery of all other comb clean leg and not all other comb clean leg, but all other standard breeds because there's a lot of stuff in there we don't see a lot of. and man, there's lots of faults and things to miss in those classes. So all our standard breeds, continentals, I used to get them a lot when I first started in
Yeah,
Columbus.
yeah. You
And I
always
mean,
had the all
and
AOSBs.
big. I mean, one time I had 100 and some Tobulant Polish. I had a shitload of Wheaton Morans when they were, kicking in. I've done that class. I've done the Continental class, which is not, something a lot of people don't, want to do those, but I don't mind doing them. I always enjoy Polish and Hamburgs and Faverolles and everything there. It's you'll have your strengths and weaknesses. Like I tell everybody, the worst class in the world of judges call ducks, and for various reasons, because they're not something that's. Yesterday, I'll give you an example. So I'm doing pigeons. I got several different breeds of pigeons, but I told those guys that a bird that goes to natural stance, that I don't have to make pose. I had a couple of them. I had a gold collar lucerne and a old Dutch capuchin. Every time I looked at those two birds, it looked like they were sitting in the standard. They were just posed. And I told that guy the difference between those birds and the other birds is I don't have to make them show. They're just naturally at station. So that's a thing that you have to be able to, I guess, develop and look at. And then if you're not good at it, go work on it. Talk to breeders. We're doing something different with our program, and probably after Columbus it'll be in there. But instead of doing the traditional clerking thing, because we found out that was sometimes not a good experience for learning, we're going to have a list of judges that want to volunteer to do it, but they're at a show and you're at a show and they're not judging. You can work with them for a few hours and go over things and discuss with them on how to judge what this or that. And I think that's going to be more productive for a lot of the apprentices than the clerking. Mike can tell you that we've kind of struggled with this in the program since I took it over and now that Terry has it. But that was a solution we had. We thought that would. I mean, even Jeff even said go work with breeders. That's a good deal. Go if you want to learn about Plymouth Rocks. Go find a breeder and go spend the day with them, and that will help you place those birds better down the road. A lot of it's just getting the process down. We try to work real hard with that on how you work a class, and we're going to try to do some videos of that later down the road. But how you actually break a class down and get through it, um, and not get
and
in trouble.
also and also how you conduct yourself and work on Champion Row.
Yep.
Uh, because it can be very trying if you let it get to you, and if you let's just say if you don't have the decorum to go along and to listen, because there's some things you like and you get up there and you know what, that still might be the best whatever, all the clean legged, but it's not the end all. And
Yeah,
just
you're a
because
goal
you
up
picked
there.
it is just because you picked it, your job you think is to push it to be champion.
No,
That is absolutely incorrect. Our jobs when we're judging, and you get to that point, is the very best bird that's up there should be the champion,
yep.
not you did it or anybody else did it. That makes no difference. Who found that bird is if that's the best, then that's the best. And that's
And
the only attitude to have. Or let me tell you, you're going to get to a point when no one wants to judge with you because they don't want to hear that shit. That is not fair. It's not fair to everybody else to think because you happen to find that one chicken that it should be better than the other ones, and you don't even see the points of what they have up there.
yep. You have to be able to
So,
use that scale of points, and that's what I've told everybody.
yes.
When we get up there with a lot of the new judges, it's not I like because I don't care what you like. Why do you think that bird with the scale of points is better than that bird? What are the major cuts here that we're looking on this one and we're looking on that one? So you have to be able. Sometimes you got to shut up because I had to do that and learn. And the more judges you get, the more opinions you're going to have. So. You just got to be able, like Mike said, you got to be able to work through that
Yep.
and not get all bent out of shape because you didn't get your way, because you're not going to always get your way.
No.
And you might not always be right, believe it or not.
No. Exactly. Someone might point something out, and you'll think,
Yep.
"Well, shit, I didn't see that." It
Lots of times
happens.
I find, and like we talked a couple weeks ago about people screwing their birds up on Champion Row. So yeah, getting up there and fluffing them is not a good thing sometimes. And we're looking at them birds for just a few minutes and we're evaluating the bird to the breed standard and then to each other to find the one with the least cuts. I think the neat thing about what Jeff was talking about what they do at Columbus with just having two guys go in there, haven't been involved with that for lots of years. I enjoy that because it would be even better, I think, if you had two people that weren't even in the whole thing, come in at the end of the day and kind of like the dog at Madison Square Garden. They bring a whole judge in that's been sequestered for 2 days that don't know nothing to go look at what's there. And I think years ago they had Ralph Beamer and Wilbur and them come in and do that a few times.
They had Ben Ricketts do it in '73 at the first big 100th anniversary. Ben came in and made all the decisions.
It gets to worse. What I hate sometimes it's just a vote. And I don't know that the best bird always gets voted in. Sometimes you don't even get a chance to vote if everybody jumps on one bird and really likes it. So that was kind of neat seeing the way they did that. I know Dan Castle and Jeff one year and Rick and Dan the next year. So I'm not sure who's going to do it this year, but it just gives you a different. And they talk through what they were looking for. So normally you people, the exhibitors, don't get to hear or see that. That's one of the few times where you will, unless you actually go up and ask the judges afterwards why you went with this or that. But most of them will tell you they're going to tell you point cuts that this bird that we ended up with probably had the least amount of point cuts, and it showed while we were looking at it. Sometimes that's an issue. The bird won't perform like it needs to perform when you need it.
Exactly. Well, my I was almost opposite of Matt. I think when I was 18, I was accepted into the. When I was 18 years old, I was all the way to the final to take my exam for the American Poultry Association. And being 18 and not quite having I don't have a hell of a lot of tact now, but I was worse. And they told me who was going to give me the test and where it was going to be. And truthfully, I didn't have much respect for that person. And I said, no, I'd rather take it here. And then I was told, no, you will take it there. And well, basically I told him to kiss my ass. So fast forward many, many, many years. I just didn't. I just went ahead and showed, and we showed and had a good time. And I judged fairs and I judged a lot of junior shows when they first came about and stuff, and had a really good time. Well, then I had taken a couple of years off, and I was in at the racetrack, and Matt called me one day and said, you really need to get your license. I said, okay. So I sent it in. I did my ABA test first. I got that, and then was it a year later? Tim gave me
2 years. I think 2 years. You got
2 years, and judged a lot of shows, and then I took the APA test in the show hall at Southern Ohio.
Yeah, Lucas
Poultry Association, and I got that done. What a long ass stay that was, because the Saturday was over, we were all done, and then I started taking the test because Tim was busy all day. But we got that done, and then I passed that, and been going ever since. I was the reverse. I was about all large fall back when I was younger. I did have some Bantams. I always had coaching Bantams, but I loved big Wyandottes, man. I had big Wyandottes, and big coachings, and if it was big, that's what I liked. It had to be big. And the older I've got, I decided that I really do like those birds, and I really like them big birds, but I like them a hell of a lot more if I don't have to pick them up and haul their asses around all the time. But they're fun to look at, and I love a really good, well, anything, but a really good large fowl is still, and you learn when you're judging, when you raised all this, you have some time, that getting some of those large fowl, especially males, in top condition is a whole different ball game than getting abandonment condition, because just of the space requirements. It's like when we see a turkey that doesn't have a broken feather. How the hell does that happen? A turkey can look at something, they're so big and they'll break, but we judge many, and we made them champion the show because they're pristine. I mean, that is an amazingly. They were very, very good, but it's an amazing feat to
feet.
get
Yep.
that like that.
I always
I can remember
appreciate
this.
waterfowl for the
Yes,
same reason. So until
yes,
you've kept them and had to keep them in condition, you don't appreciate that.
no,
And once you have them, you appreciate some of the finer things you see when you see a good one. And that's why, like Jeff said, you always get happy when you find that good one. So
yeah. I've heard I've got to tell when I'm doing, especially Old English and moderns, is when they hit my hand or when I pick them up, I'll go. Ooh, I make a little grunt sound. I don't even know I do it because, damn it, it's there. I mean, you could feel it. So, but I mean, but you have to get to a point, and I try to tell a lot of people this when they're coming and we give an exam or something, is you need to relax. It's hard for a lot of people, but you need to relax, and you have to get into a groove and just let it go. You have to just flow with it. And if a bump comes in the road, you step over the bump, go around the bump, but you don't ever let the bump stop you.
nope.
And you don't ever slow down so damn slow that you overthink everything and then you get lost. Now, I'm telling you, you get lost in a class. That's a terrible feeling as a judge to get lost.
Yeah,
And
you
if you
have to
ever do
have
find
really.
yourself,
We'll stop for a minute and talk that. You really got to pay attention to the process of how to work
yes,
a class. There were some great ones that showed me. And because when you first start, that's one of the reasons why we require our ABA apprentices to go do 2 junior shows before they can get their license. What we were finding, some of these people were getting their judge's license and then never really judged a show. So,
that they
place
don't have a
from
clue. They
and
you know
how
the
work.
birds, but you don't know how things work.
Yeah, you got to know how to work a class and how to work with trios and the whole deal, displays, all that stuff. So in my mind, you've got to be able to get that process down. I've seen people with their license and like Mike says, get in there and handle the bird 15, 20 times and never mark nothing on the tags, have no system to weed things out. And they get lost in the class and they're just going on like a hamster on a treadmill. So, that's I think one of the good things with our new apprenticeship program, and I'm only going to speak to it because I've given tests on the other side, but as far as administering the program, I can't really say. But we tried to get you drilled in that scale of points, and doing that in your head. So every bird's worth 100 points, and it's a mathematical equation. Are making the cuts and getting down to where you need to be on every bird in the class? um, so that function of how to actually work a class is something we're going to try to do some more stuff on down the road, and I think that will help.
I
Um,
think so too. And I
as far
think
as
what
as far as qualifications, everybody knows you have to be a member for 5 years. You got to be 21 now. So Mike was at the time when they first started
it's
with 18s
18.
because you were still going and getting your ass shot off. You could do
Yes,
lot more things than
yes.
than now. But
Judge Chickens. Uh,
I
yeah.
believe Jeff was one of the youngest judges ever to get his license. So I waited till I was
And
in
I
my
think Danny
40s.
Pageant. I
Yeah,
think Danny was one of the youngest.
Paul and
Him and
Troy were
Jeff were pretty
fairly
good.
young. Paul and Troy were fairly young when they got theirs.
Yes.
I waited a while because it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to ruin my hobby. So, and Mike will tell you, both of us judging that many shows over the years, there's years we don't show because we're off judging. Um,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of times when you're in the clubs and officers and things, you'll end up picking up some of these national meets because they know you're coming anyways. So you've got those to do, and it is helpful to get where there's lots of birds and big classes. I think that makes you a better judge if you're all the time just doing little small shows and fairs and only placing
Yes.
2 or 3. And when you get in that class, like Jeff said, with 50 white silky pullets, you better know what you're doing and be
Yep.
professional enough. I ain't going to say you're going to always be right, but you got to be able to hand yourself and explain things. As long as you can articulate why you play something and it's happy in your mind that you did it that way. I always tell everybody that I don't care about your opinion. not to be blunt or rude, but today they're paying me, and in my opinion, is the only one that counts. So unless I do something that's so bad that it could be protested, I don't care what you think. It's you're not handling them, you're not making that decision. The one that's got to take them in and out, they have to figure that out, and lots of times you can't do that till you handle them. So
No, and you can't tell. I mean, that's like picture judging and outside the class. That may look right. It may look
yeah,
great. You don't know until you open that thing up what it is. So you get
yep,
it into your hand. And what I was saying about getting lost, and I've seen them. I mean, you can see a person's face when they're lost. Uh, and I've never understood why the greatest thing you could do then is to put your pen and your stick back in your pocket and go outside. Go out and get a drink and stuff, clear your head and go right back in there and make a decision. That's
oh,
the thing. Make a
have a
damn
system
decision.
have a system to mark your tags. So I
Yes.
learned early on from a couple of really good ones, but probably my favorite one was Rick Power. Now Rick put a whole lot more marks and checks and pluses than what I did, but I made it real simple. So most of my cards, and I tell everybody, my clerks and exhibitors if they want to know, but you've got type. So on a color bird, type's roughly worth 60 points. Colors 30, conditions 10, white's 70, 20, 10. So check, check plus or check, check whatever. Well, the first mark I make is always for type. So that's the most important one. And then the second mark is for color. And then I'm doing that little point cut thing. And I usually do plus, check, or minus. So plus means I really like it. Check means it's okay. And minus means there's something in there I don't like. I do that for type, color, and condition. A lot of times I'll do that before. If it's 20 pullets, I'll do that before I ever handle them. Because some of them look good from outside the cage. I can, that bird catches your eye. Like I said, you got to have an eye for the bird. You do that. And then when I go down through and handle them, if something changes, I'll change or either mark below it or I'll change my marks. So then when I'm done, if I got three of them the same, then I know I'm going to go back to those three birds and not the other 17. So you weeded
Yeah.
them out. It makes it a lot better for you, especially when you get to the end of the class when you're picking best variety, reserve variety, things like that. Um,
I agree.
you just got to get that system down and work it to whatever makes you happy and makes you function well. Now, not everybody does it the same, so other people will mark things different on their tags. But that was just the easiest way I could do it to get. And I jumped right into when I first started judging. I mean, we were talking the other day, the old Michigan State Fair. One of us would do bantams, one of us would do large fowl, one of us would do waterfowl every year. Well, the year I got bantams is one of my first year judging, and there was 1,200 bantams. I did judge 1,200 bantams in one day. Well, you better have your crap together if you're buzzing down. And there was like 25 barred rock pullets in one class. I mean, there was no little stuff with 1,200 bantams at a state fair. So you got to get that system down. You got to be able to function. You've got X amount of time to do it in. All those pressures are there. Um, and you have to be able to function at the end of the day, make most of the exhibitors happy and the show management happy, even more important with the job you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I love Rick because he would always tell, he goes, I don't even think we should have an apprenticeship program. I think we should give everybody a judge's license that wants one, and the good ones will sort themselves out. Well, that's true, but my God, there might be some torture in the sorting process without that idea. But it is true, and we find that there's some very good coaching judges, and there's some that aren't very good, and we tend to gravitate towards the ones that we like the way they judge. Not saying that we're going to always win that class, but and you're not going to all be good on everything. So some
Fair
judges,
shot.
yeah, fair
A
shot,
fair shot, and you respect, even if that's not the way you saw the class. You respect their opinion that they saw something that you didn't, and so it's over, and you just go ahead on with it. It doesn't make any real thing. The problem is when you get someone that doesn't know shit, well then you've got a problem, right? I mean that's what makes you feel, and that's what gives you a bad taste. Another thing about judging, so if you're from the South or pick a part of the country, and that's where you usually do your judging, and then you get called to do a big show or a show here in this part of the country or in that if you've never been there, the whole bird. I mean, there's styles all over the country that are absolutely different. And so that's something that takes for you to get used to. And just because you see something that you've never seen before doesn't mean that one you're looking at you've never seen before isn't the right kind.
Yep.
I mean,
Exactly.
there's you
Don't be a,
really have to
here's one that
relax.
here's one that really burns me, and I hate when somebody makes fun of somebody for going and getting their standard. That's to
Oh
me,
yeah,
that's a
no,
good judge.
that's
I judged pigeons yesterday, so we have 447 breeds and varieties of pigeons. You're not going to know every one of them, and Mike's seen them. He's been to pigeon shows with me. There's breeds that I have never seen. I run into them every once
yep.
in a while. So you've got to be able to go reference. And I think there's 15 different leg colors for Old English and moderns, and you got to know. So a lot of times I don't remember what that leg color is exactly. So I'm not afraid to look up something. I don't. If you don't like that,
But
then
it says in both books that
yeah,
the
you're
judge
supposed to.
should have. You're supposed to. That's part of the deal. Is you're supposed to know where to find that answer before you make a mistake.
Now you
And
can't sit
9 times
there.
out of 10, you're correct. You
Yep.
have it in your head, but you don't want to look like a total buffoon,
Now you don't want
a
to sit
half
there in the
buffoon.
aisle either. You can go the other way and have to look up everything. So you have to be
Yes,
comfortable enough with most stuff that you can function. It's that's kind of
exactly.
used when you get stuck a little bit. But I hope that answers some of the questions of people that want to be judges. The motivation's got to be there for the right reasons. So
Yes,
if you're wanting to be a judge, if you think that's going to make you win more, I think Jeff made the comment of all these people in the books that are judges that don't judge. I said, yeah, there's a lot of them that got their license and never did judge. Some of them judge a couple times and that's it. That wasn't their thing. So I'd
yeah,
always recommend doing them junior shows first. And if you can deal with kids and parents, normally you can deal with senior exhibitors pretty well. Um,
normally.
it's not going to always be, uh, good thing. There's been times when I get a little bent with people, mainly because a lot of people look at their birds every day and every day and every day, and they get what they were talking on a few others. They get coop blind. So you have to be able to, even in my own birds, I don't know when I'm beat and when I'm not beat, but there's times when you think you've got it and you're going to get surprised. So um, that judge has the advantage of handling everything and being able to evaluate everything in his mind. So you got to go with that, and you can either agree or not agree. But at the end of the day, it's a chicken show, and who the hell cares? So, after
Exactly.
this next week, nobody's going to remember anyways. So,
No, no.
so
Unless
any,
whoever that exhibitor is keeps bringing the same shit up.
oh,
And then it's like, after one and you think, yeah, maybe, but I don't want to hear about next week or next year or
or
next. I've never shown
what
her
it
that
did.
son of a bitch again. I don't want to hear it. If you don't like them, that's fine. Don't go.
Yeah, I
Don't go
don't.
where that person is. Not
Well,
everybody in the world has to know your opinion. No one really cares about your opinion.
the
So I'm
worst,
just
the
telling
worst
you,
thing
be
that
nice.
exhibitor, I got to put that in there before we quit here. But the worst thing an exhibitor can do is tell me, well, I won this or that last week. I don't care what it did last week. That was a whole
No.
different game. And
Yep. Yep.
somebody else was refereeing that game that day. It wasn't me. So I can
Yep.
only tell you what I see here today and what I think today. And I think some of the another thing I'll add before we go too is we're not calling your birds for you. So if I
No.
wanted a judge to call my birds and I want him to call my black coach and bantams, I'm going to go get Tom Roebuck to come call. I'm not going to go get Anthony Ashley. That's a Cornish guy. We're capable to judge your class, but that doesn't mean we're the breeder of that class.
No.
So, and I always hate that a lot of guys will tell me, well, I brought 40 birds so the judge can call them. No, the judge ain't going to call them. The judge is going to place them the way he sees them today. But that might not be the way you should put these birds together. So I don't
Nope.
think you ever want to rely on the judges to be a show result to be your make your breeding decisions. Like we said,
No.
that's the most important thing you do. Don't count on a judge to do that for you unless it's a judge of your that raises your breed and you respect their opinion.
Yes. Exactly.
I
Yep.
think
That's something that
that
it takes a
diplomatically
while to
covered
understand.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And Anthony, not that you can't judge coachings if you
Yeah.
happen to be listening to this, son, because I love you just enough to get. I love you like just enough to get to heaven, Anthony. So everything's okay.
Yeah, that's why I say if I wanted to breed Cornish, then I'm going to get Anthony. But
Yes, I am.
Tom could probably help there too. But
Yeah, Tom could help there.
you just don't
There's
want
not a
to.
hell of a lot Tom couldn't help on. I'm just
Yeah, there
telling
you go. There's just I hate a lot of times when you get it put in that position. I know my friend Doug and Ray are working on buttercups. Well, I can tell you what they look like, but I'm probably not the best buttercup breeder in the world because I never bred the damn things.
Yeah.
Emily was lucky enough at Arkansas; she got to breed thousands of them, and she's probably going to tell you how to cull and sort them better than I can. Now we can judge them in a show and pick the best showbird that day, but to cull your birds for breeding and whatever, that's got to come from you originally. You can ask for help or whatever, but at the end of the day, you're the one living and dying by those decisions.
Yes.
And I've asked for help on certain things sometimes. I know it was great when Clay Dove was up here because I ought always get his opinion whether I wanted it or not. and
Yeah, you got
and
another
if
friend
I
kind of like that too.
yeah, and if I followed it, yeah, and if I didn't, yeah, and I got the I told you shows or oh that worked, huh? So at the end of the day, it's your decision on what to put
Yes.
together and what to keep. And I think you have to own that yourself, and you have to get comfortable enough that you can make those. So
Yeah,
that's
you're
all I
paying
got.
the feed bill. Take
Yep.
responsibility. If you screw it up, nobody screwed it up for you, brother or sister. You did it yourself because you took that advice that didn't work, and it may have worked.
And everybody gets stuck and can ask,
Oh
for
yeah,
somebody to come in. That's
yeah,
not out there. But hopefully you learn from asking those questions and listen and go put it in action. That's the true test right there. 'Cause,
exactly.
Mike and I both know people babbled on to for hours, and it's like talking to that wall. It just never got there, and
Yeah,
it shows in the.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
you go, why in the hell are you using this? Well, if
yeah.
you got good
Well,
reason
I like
for it,
it.
then yeah. But that
And
I
mine
like
has.
thing,
I like that one. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that I
Here's your
like
ass whipping.
that I like will get you in trouble every time. There's got to be a
Every
reason.
time.
Put some
Yep,
quantification to it.
that's
I
right.
think
Big
that's
word.
it.
That's the word.
Big word.
I think that's it.
Yearbooks are getting ready to go. Standards, the minis are at Karen's, and the big ones are coming either today or next week. So we'll probably. I think there was over 300 pre-sold, so they're going to start box shipping in chunks. They can't do them all at once, but Kevin will get busy on those as soon as he gets them. Um,
Yep.
I think Mike's going to be at the Canadian APA
Yep.
National meet up in
Terry and I are going. Yep.
Grassy, Ontario. So Terry's going. He's going to be running the table. So we'll have him there. Um, Probably the first show you're going to see him at will be Bath because Karen will be at Bath. And
Yes. That's where we're picking them up.
well, yeah, and then we're getting them to Rogier's before that. So
Yep.
I think Rogier's will probably have them at the fall shows here. That's our
At the
goal.
almost. Yep.
Karen and I is working on some logistics for me to get over there. I may have to go to Emily's anyways, and if I go over there, then I'll go to her house and pick up some to bring back for Rogier's because right now we don't think she can get them all in the truck to take to Bath is the problem. So with what Canada's going to get, what she needs to take up there to that show and to add, I think Rogier's has a pile of them. So I'm hopefully going to get those and we'll get them back here and get them off to them. So they'll be
Well, you
selling
got to
them. So
remember, we're the ones that are bringing them back from Bath for Canada too. So
yes.
yeah.
And another thing, I think it's still up on we're going to sell the special price of bundle. So that's the big standard, the mini standard in the bag up until the time we start shipping. So once we get them here and we're shipping them, then you're going to see a price increase on both those separately. And the
Yes.
bundle won't happen again. We'll do another bundle for the Ohio National, for the national meet. It may be something different, but you won't see that bundle for a while. So if you're still wanting to get the bundle in, get that now because it's still on the website until next week when we start shipping. Then it's going to go.
Yep.
We haven't got the final price for that nailed down. I'm not sure what it is, so I won't say. I know the mini is going to be 35. The price on the big one's going to depend on freight, I think.
Yep.
It's a
So,
lot bigger than the
oh, it's big.
2020. It's a good sized book. Um, it's actually bigger than anyone ever published, so it's bigger than the APA standard. So with
And
all
when we
those
get it, actually get a copy in our hands, don't worry, we'll probably be doing two of these a week, and you'll see it. So
yeah, we'll get there.
they're coming.
Like I said last week, there's not many things I'm really proud of that have been involved in, but that's one of them. It come out really well, and I think it's going to be a good deal. So
I think so too.
the yearbook's right behind it. She's wrapping it up now, and shows are starting to kick in. I know the sanctions and the memberships are starting to fly. So
Yep,
that's about all I got.
we're getting ready. It's a couple of 3 weeks, and I think you'll be off to start off the season at
White River's
River,
the first one, and then we got
I'll
several
be
right
off
there in
to
a row.
Yeah, I'll be off to Elmo, and I think that might be my first. I might be missing a week. I'll have to look. So the cascade starts. The dominoes start falling here in the next couple 3
we
weeks.
go to
So
Ontario for the fair, so we'll be
yep.
up at
Oh,
West
that's
Niagara
right.
Fair, and then Moon City and Eaton, Greenville. They're like 3 in a row. So
I got Elmo in there, and
Elmo's
then
in there.
Greenville. Yeah. So and then I go back to Canada. So it'll be a good time. It'll be very good. Well, I'm taking my beautiful wife with me because I always get talking and forget the film stuff. So Terry's going to do the filming, and it'll be a little different. We probably won't have it on the talking this part of it. I mean, we may, but that stuff should be. We'll get it together and put it on the
We can
website.
get it on
Give you
YouTube
something to do. Get it on YouTube, and we'll get it on the. Yep.
Everybody likes to listen to the stuff when they're vehicles, so the YouTube and Spotify is working good.
Yep. And when they're working in the barn, I get a lot of them that tell me, when I know I've got an hour when I'm doing something, I just put it on and do my work. That's a good thing. We appreciate all of you that are listening and sharing it and subscribing and liking and your comments, stuff you want to see. That's how we know we're on the right track.
Yep.
There's some things we think are elementary that aren't, because we've been doing it so long, it's second nature. So anything like that, feel free to send them to Matt, send them to me, send them to both of us, however you want to do it, because I'm starting to list. Same thing with people that you're interested in that maybe you think somebody else isn't. Well, you never know. People have the same questions. We could get somebody else on that we don't automatically think of to get on the podcast. So I've learned something every single time.
Yep.
And I think that's a great thing because it gets your mind working, and then you start getting excited for what's coming up, even if you don't know what the hell is coming up. You just know you got something to do.
Some good comments from a couple of people that are fairly new, and they say they reference them. So and that's where some of these things are. Yeah, they're going back and listening. And I get questions from that. Well, I listened to you talking to Newt Long the other day, and I want to know about this. So that's good. That's where all this comes from.
That's great.
The spouting on the breeding and the judging, and so some of the ones coming up. I guess John Miles. I just talked to John today.
Yes,
he'll be a great fantastic one to get him to come on. He agreed to do it. To come on here, you need to have a microphone and a camera on your computer somehow. You can do it on a tablet. You can do it on a phone. It's pretty simple. We send a link. You click on that link and you join in here kind of like a Zoom meeting, and we control it on our end. So it's not tough to do. I think one of the greatest things of all the ones we're doing is it's recorded for posterity. So we have some of these great breeders that we've had on, Dan and Jeff and Don and Newt and everybody that's in, Nate and all of them. That's historically there now that we don't have for a lot of old timers. I wished we did have. So we're going to work on getting some people that aren't real computer savvy, getting them some help to get them on, and get some different people. Neil Mahaffey's
and I think we got some too, kind of thinking of people that we know, that some of you know maybe by name, but they don't show. So maybe go and just kind of do a little interview type thing because they do as much for the fancy, it, but they don't show, but they raise and they keep stuff for other people to use and stuff. So that's kind of an important thing for me is I want to get those people out there. Uh, and like Matt said, it's basically it's here forever. You know, shit on the internet you can't get rid of. I mean, ask most of the politicians; they've tried,
Hmm.
right? But you can't get rid of it. And wait a minute. Okay, I'm in front. Uh, but they I think that's real important. And if you're a young person or someone just starting out or someone that's working and you're going to shows and you're not a real outgoing person, there's plenty of them. Matt and I are not introverts, uh, but there's a lot of them that like to keep to themselves. I understand that and have trouble with that. But these things, when you see other people that go through the same things you go through, have the same people that have raised 50, 60 years like us and others that still have the same problems and questions that you people that are just starting have. I mean, it's amazing. So it kind of helps you relax and just do what you need to do. Ask questions. Uh, don't assume anything. Don't assume the answer. Ask the question. Listen to it, and just go on from there.
Yep,
So,
the
but
only
I
dumb
think it's a
ones,
real good thing.
the
I
only
think it's
dumb one's the
great.
one you didn't ask.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to start this a couple years ago, and Matt was still working, and I was working. Then I went back to work, and it just got away from us. But I'm really glad we did that first one in February because it kind of gets into a habit then, and you learn that there's nothing you can't learn. You can fumble with it and screw up, but it doesn't mean you're not doing it. Just keep moving forward. So that's all
All
I got, and we'll see everybody. If not, hopefully before next, we'll see at least next Thursday.
yeah, we're gonna have. I know
Maybe
we got one
before
next
too.
week, and then we're working on the timing with Neil and John, and because they both work during the daytime, so to get that arranged. But we'll hopefully have one or two next week. So
Hey, we
that's the
could do a
plan.
bourbon edition. I
Yeah,
mean,
there we go.
if we're get- we
Bourbon
could do a
Trail
little bourbon
edition.
edition. How y'all doing? Hey, all
Yeah,
right, guys, take care. Be nice to each other.
yeah. We'll see ya.
Bye.